Hey guys, it's Amy at Zoe back, and I'm going to do my weekly reading update for January, what is it, 22nd? 2023. So, okay. So this week was fairly good up until I actually finished a lot of the books that I had been in the middle of. Some of them I started the last week or so. A couple of them were from earlier in the month. I just wrapped up almost everything. I just have one book that's left on my solid TBR, so that's pretty good. So I finished a lot of things this week. Work was really bad at the end of the week because we lost internet on a little bit after lunch on Thursday. So the rest of that day was kind of like a wash. Like I did stuff, but I didn't have a whole lot to do because like most of my job, even though, receiving wise, I get a lot of stuff, but it's not enough for all day. Friday, we never got it back the whole day, and it was horrible. I just sat there listening to audiobooks. There's nothing else for me to do. I had to be there for the deliveries, so I didn't leave until 3 when the last delivery came through, and then I was like, I gotta get out of here. So I only lost like a half hour on Friday, but I'd had to lift overtime in the other days to make up for that. But I'm just like, I was so bored, and again, I listened to a lot of audiobooks, so I made a lot of progress on one of the books I'm in the middle of. And then again, I finished, another one. So it was just like, it was a great reading week because I finished 7 things, which again is huge. But a lot of them I already started early last week, and some of them I read just this week. And then I'm in the middle again of a lot of books. I don't know why. I don't know if it's just, I don't know if it happens at the beginning of the year, but I want to just start everything. And so I'm definitely doing that, and I'm picking and choosing what I feel like reading. I'm definitely mood reading. Like this is all mood reading stuff. I don't know if you can hear the little bell, but I bought my cat some little mice that have bells on them. I don't know why they have bells, but you could probably hear them. Anyway, sorry. They've been enjoying them. I think they lost one already, but anyway, so if you hear a tinkling noise in the background, that's my cats playing. Anyway, so this week was very much a weird week. I actually did DNF a couple things too that were from these books will self-destruct, so I feel pretty good about that. And then I got through some books I didn't expect to, and I started some I didn't expect to, but again, one of them I am just adoring, so we will talk about this. So this is going to be a long video, just in case you're curious. If I have to go through 7 books that I finished, 2 that I DNF'd, and then I have, like 6 books I'm in the middle of, I'll just mention. So we'll talk about the books I finished, the ones I'm in the middle of, and what I think I'm going to read in the next week. So we'll go through my DNFs first because they're right here. I tried the Dinosaur Lords by Milan. So this one I had bought quite a long time ago, and it's been on my shelf forever, and I've always wanted to get to it because again, it's a world that has like dinosaurs as, animals in the wild, as well as ones that they have trained for warfare and things, and it sounded really interesting. The problem was I didn't get even very far into this, and I was already kind of angry at the way that the dialogue was going, and how it was so telling me things that they wouldn't really have that conversation in that time, and it was just annoying. I think the world building must be interesting and exciting. The little part that I got of it, I was interested, but I just couldn't get through the dialogue. It was just driving me crazy. And I was already like one of the first characters you meet. I'm already don't like him because he was kind of like one of those guys who just did what he needed to do to get by, but he, I don't know, he just seemed kind of slimy. Anyway, I'm sure that this is a good book, and there's a lot of people who like it. I just did not get along with it right off, and I was like, I don't need to keep this. I have so many other series to read that I am interested in actually pursuing. So this is one of my books of these books will self-destruct. So this one is being unhauled. Then I tried the new and improved Romney Fudge by Elliott because, again, I've been reading a lot of weird books, so I thought, well, this is the time to read a weird book. And this is following Romney, who is down on his luck. He's, has kind of this dead-end job as a taxidermist, and his wife has left him, and so she's an ex-wife now, and she's starting to date again, and he's like kind of holding on to the past with her, and then but he and his buddies are just rednecks pretty much. They don't do much anyway. They except go drinking and smoke and stuff. So the point is he goes for this trial test kind of thing at a research lab, and to make him more intelligent. So I did read, I think I read I probably got just about 40 pages of this, and I was just not even caring. I didn't care what happened to him. He was going through the experiments, and I mean, I kind of wanted to see him meet the really weird beast that he's supposed to go track in the woods or whatever, but I don't know why. He was just driving me crazy. I didn't like him. And again, it was hard for me to follow a main character that I'm getting an eye perspective from, a first person perspective from, and I don't even care about him. Maybe it's because we're like the same, like maybe he's a little younger than I am, but not by much, but he's like his little whining about life. I don't know. There was just something about it I didn't like. I'm sure it gets better too. I think it's just not a me book. And so I'm going to pass on this one and get rid of this one as well. So that's 2 books off of my These Books Will Self-Destruct that I have decided to unhaul. So that is the whole point of that project for me, is I put books on there that have been on my shelf for too long that either I put off or ones that I'm not sure I was going to get along with anyway. And so 2 of them I tried this week, and I got rid of 2 of them. I think I did pretty well. If I can keep on track, I can get through that list before the year is out, but we will see. So let's talk about the books that I finished. So I did finish my audiobook of Square Haunting, 5 Writers in London Between the Wars by Francesca Wade. Narrator was Corey James. So I really enjoyed this. You know, because this is talking about Mecklenburg Square in London, where a lot of writers lived, I said, between World War I and World War II, for different time periods and different kinds of writers. So there's Dorothy L. Sayers, Virginia Woolf, and then again, those are like, so mystery writer, then, you know, literary, or, you know, I don't know what you call classic. I don't know what you call Virginia Woolf. I can't think of the term right now. It went right out of my head. Yeah, her Wire and Saw. I can't think what it is. I know. I read it. This is not, that word isn't coming to me. Sorry. Then there was Jane Harrison, who was a classicist. So she was older of the bunch, who had been fighting to, you know, get accolades for her stuff on ancient history and her views on women in that. She was really fascinating. Elaine Power was more for economics, wrote stuff on economics and taught, and hers was like, it was okay on hers. And then H.D., I can't remember what her first name was, but she was a poet, and her story was hard to read, the stuff that she went through, but or for me, I was really interested in her, and she wrote some books as some other books as well. And then so they were all very interesting women, like very different styles, very different home lives, with those who were married and those who weren't. And during this period, I found the parts on Dorothy L. Sayers the most interesting, because again, I have read a few books of her, Lord Peter Wimsey, and she wrote the first couple, I think it was the first couple that she wrote there, before she moved on. But it was really interesting how there are ties between her life, and then she knew somebody who also knew H.D., the poet, and it was like weird how that kind of crossed. And then Jane Harrison, who again was older, but she had a companion who wrote, was Hope or Helen, Merrilees, I think it is, who wrote Lud in the Mist, which is a book I'm getting from the library hopefully today to try out, because it's supposed to be a pre-Tolkien fantasy. So I'm really kind of interested in that. And I was just kind of interested in the ties, and it was really, really interesting because some of the people mentioned in here, you know, I've read about in other books that I didn't know who they really were. So it was kind of interesting, the kind of tie. Like, I'd heard of Jane Harrison before. I hadn't heard of the of H.D. or Elaine Powers, but it was still kind of interesting. My most disappointing part of this, though, was the Virginia Woolf section. It really was just a snapshot of her life while they had a house there in Mecklenburg Square, and then you know, they weren't there that long, and so it wasn't really a big part of her life, of Virginia Woolf's life, but you know, it's just, I was hoping for a little bit more. So that really means I need to pick up a biography on Virginia Woolf at some point, which again, I'll show you another book that I'm reading that is related to her, but because I wanted to read something more on her. Again, she is definitely one of those modern classic writers that I want to read more stuff about. So anyway, this was really interesting. I really recommend this. It was a very interesting look at that time between the wars, and then these different women who were fighting for getting their recognition for their different writings, again, in a world where, you know, they were kind of pushed aside a lot of times because of being female. And I thought it was really well done. I really enjoyed this book, and I definitely recommend it. Again, I own the audiobook, so I borrowed the book from the library to listen to it, or to have, so because there's pictures in there and stuff, so not too many. I then finished The Still and McKenzie Bride by Jennifer Ashley. Had I started this last week? I think I might have. So this is book 8 in the McKenzie and McBride series that I read. Probably, it's been a long time since I picked one of these up. I think the last time I read one of the books was in 2019. But this is one of the ones from 2015. There's 3 books that are set in a different timeline from the main timeline. So I had gotten behind at some point. My cat's crying in the other room, sorry. So I had gotten behind. So these are historical romances, but they normally take place in the 1880s and 1890s, but this timeline goes back to 1745 during one of the Jacobite Rebellion. And so that was really interesting because, again, we were following a family of Scottish ones who had a title, and then how they were trying to mostly stay neutral, but how it gets caught up with the whole thing that happened during that time period. I thought this one really, I didn't actually tear up, but I definitely came close to misting. Like, I was missing a couple times of some things that happened in here. So it was really, I think, really good. It was really interesting. It does make me want to read more up on that history because I don't know a lot about that. I've read a couple books that talk about it, but not in a historical sense. Like, they were fiction. So I do want to do that. I will continue on to the next book. I have both the 9th and the 10th book on my Kindle. So I will be reading those ebook wise, and then I have physical copies of the last 2 books that are out so far. Or no, I have 2 books and maybe 1 novella still to go. So I have quite this is a series I want to catch up on this year because I've just been behind for years. So I did enjoy this. Again, we're following Malcolm, and he meets Mary, who is English, when they're both in Edinburgh, and when everything goes wrong at it, you know, again, it's their love story, but it's also, it was a lot of family things, which is what I love about this series, is you get all these extra characters who are in the family, and I just love them. Anyway, I don't love this as much as the main series, but I did enjoy it enough that I will continue on because I'm kind of curious how that's going to go with what happened at the end of that book. I then did my buddy read with Tea and All the Books, and we read the 4th book in the Innkeeper Chronicles, Sweep of the Blade by Alona Andrews. So again, we're reading these, you know, 1 a month kind of thing. So this was kind of a little departure from the series because they're following Dina's, who is the innkeeper that we've been following in the other books. This is her sister, and it's her story with Arlen. And why did my light just go brighter? Oh, that was weird. The light, like one of the bulbs just came back. Sorry. Anyway, it'll probably go out again. Sorry. So we're following Maud and Arlen as they travel to his world. Again, these are science fiction, urban fantasy stories where there are inns across the universe, and one's on Earth where aliens can come. It's kind of like a way station, kind of an airport hub to other places. It was very interesting to learn a little bit more about that because they go off planet and learn more about this other the species that Arlen is. It was just so much fun. I think it was a really good story. I'm glad we got it because again, I love Maud and Arlen and Helen, and it was so good. Like, I really enjoyed a lot of action in here, a lot of political intrigue and stuff that happened I just really enjoyed it. It was just another good entry into the series that we are continuing to read. So we got number 4 done. Then I finished Mad and Bad, Real Heroines of the Regency by B. Cook. So this was a book, nonfiction book about the Regency period. This is a very light overview of the whole time frame, looking at a lot of the women who were involved in different aspects with the sciences, with writing, with with the social life and stuff. And it was really interesting. I really enjoyed it. It's very light, but it also, has a few pictures and some historical stuff, or, some plates of certain things of, things. The actual painting of this is very interesting. That was done by a woman. And, I liked it because it was little snapshots of different types of things in the Regency, and then a lot of women and how they were related to other, people that we know. Maybe they know their names more because they're white and male. So I did like this for that. I think it is very basic. It is very light. This is not something, it's like not hard to read. It was very fast and easy to read. There are some people in here I want to read more about that I actually, or some of them that had books that I have the books, or I'm going to get the books that I want to read more about during the Regency, other than, Jane Austen. I need to get to the Maria Edgeworth. I just haven't got to her yet. I thought there were some... Kitty! I don't know why he's crying. Anyway, Cooper. Anyway, so I thought this was just light and a really... it was just interesting. I thought it was really interesting. This is done by one of the owners of the Ripped Bodice, the romance bookstore in LA, which I've never been to, and I want to. I did have them, I did buy this online and send it to me when it came out. So it is signed. But anyway, I really enjoyed this, as in just a teaser of little things to maybe look at more later. As I said, there was a couple books in here. I have a little mark of one of the books that I think I own, or it's on my wish list, which I need to go look. That's why I left that in there, so I could double check if I have it or not, because I can't remember. I think I bought it, but I can't remember. So there's a couple of things. So I thought it was just a really light history, or nonfiction. If you want something just to kind of dip in and hear a lot of different names. Again, is it like, they even talk about like Mary Awning, who, or Awning, the one who did the fossils. And I have a book on her. I just haven't read it yet. So this made me like, okay, I need to push that back up so I read that book. So, and there's a couple other people in here. I just thought this was really fascinating because I didn't know anything about the, like, I read a lot of historical fictions or romances that have the balls and stuff during the Regency, but I didn't really know about Almax and how that was done. Had all these women who were kind of in charge of who got to go and who got tickets to it. So I didn't know anything about that. Like, I guess maybe the ones I read don't talk about that, but it was really kind of interesting to learn a little bit about the Regency and some of the social stuff in there too as well. Anyway, I think it was just a good overview. I would not say this is a perfect thing, or definitely you have to read more after you read this, but I think it's a good little like, hey, look at this, and then you can go and read some other stuff. She does have a recommended reading for beyond certain subjects, around certain people at the end of each chapter. So I thought she did that pretty well. So anyway, I'm glad I got that off my shelf. I had that since 2020, and I meant to read it like every Jane Austen since then, Jane Austen July, and I keep going, I'm going to read it, and I never did. So now it's done though. Then I listened to The Invention of Nature, The Adventures of Alexander von Humboldt, The Lost Hero of Science by Andrea Woolf. This was narrated by David Drummold. And this was so good. I am so glad I finally got to this. This was fascinating. So Humboldt is one of those names that I've heard in science. I know there are counties called after that. I mean, because I lived in California for a while, so I knew there was Humboldt County. And there are places, rivers and things called it, and the Humboldt Current and stuff. And I was always worrying about him. And then as I said, this was kind of popular a couple of years ago, because I guess it won, well, quite a while ago, because it won the Costa Award, but one of them. And but I saw some people reading it a couple of years ago, and I don't recall who I saw read it now, because it's been too long. But I bought it because, again, I was getting into nature nonfiction, and this was one of the ones that I've been meaning to get to. So I got the audiobook from my library so that I could read it. And it was really well done, the audio. But I did, like, a lot of times I went back and then there's a lot of pictures in here of different things. Like, it's just, it has a lot, it's a lot more interactive. I'm glad I did it by audio just because it looks really dense when you look at the text and it's kind of small. But the pictures were cool, so I'd go back and listen to this, or look at it once I got home that night, because I would listen to it at work and in the car. I found learning about him very interesting because of all of his ideas and how he, in the late 1700s and early, or the half of the 1800s, he was so, like, everybody knew who he was. He was very well respected, and he went so many places. His South America trip was incredible. He went to Russia, through Siberia and stuff, and it was just, there were so many things he got to do. I wanted the part where he wanted to go to India, and he didn't get to go there, and I would have loved to what his remarks would have been about that, because that's something that sounds so interesting. In that time frame of not knowing how the mountains were formed and things, and how he talked about how nature, how, like, in where the tree lines are and why there's certain different kinds of plants at different levels and stuff. And he had so many ideas, and he crossed so many barriers. I would really like to see some of the books that he actually wrote, just to kind of look at them, because the Cosmos one sounds cool, and his personal narrative that talks about his trip in South America. And it was just so interesting, because then you learn that he, went to the US and he met with Jefferson and Madison and talked to them, and it was just so interesting. Like, he was very much a scientist without kind of borders, and he was very liberal in his views on slavery and the way the government should be run. But he was not able to fully, like, talk about that because of who he was working for, or, who was supporting him. Because he wasn't very good with money, considering he was so brilliant. It was such a good book. I really recommend this for nature nonfiction, and just learning about him and the stuff that how he connected with so many other different people and disciplines. Because again, he was kind of like that Renaissance man kind of thing, where he just did everything. He got involved in a lot of things, and he just was so interested in every aspect of nature. I just found this fascinating. I'm really glad I finally got to it and read that. It was so good. Definitely one of the best nonfiction books I've read in a really long time. I just found it really, really good. I then finally finished House Immortal by Devin Monk. This is the first book in the House Immortal trilogy. So this is one of the books that I did try a chapter on a couple of years ago, and then never picked it up afterwards. And I've been meaning all 2022 I meant to pick this up, and I never did. So I made it, because I'm going to try to read all the books I did try chapters on for urban fantasy and paranormal romance that I still have. This is the first of the 12 that I picked up for this year. And this did not go well for me. This was one of those books where I really enjoyed the beginning, and then decisions were made, or it went in ways that I did not expect in a good way. Like, it just didn't go the way I wanted it to. So this one, I think again, it's not a bad book. I think other people will really enjoy it. I just started getting kind of a little miffed at some of the decisions made, and some of the logic. Of why they didn't think to plan anything earlier before all this happened. So we are following Matilda, who is, so she, when she was younger, had been very sick, and her essence, or her soul, kind of was transferred to a galvanized body that has mysterious origins. And so there are only 12 other galvanized in the world, and they are under kind of lock and key, as in they are working for the houses who rule the world. This is our world, but like 200, it's about 200, I think it's like 200 years in the future. So there has been problems things that have happened, and apocalypses and things, and so all these houses rule the world. and you have to join them, or you're part of House Brown, which is kind of like the outlier group that has no power, but a lot of people in the rural areas who don't want the oversight of the other houses are kind of joined to that. So the Galvanites have given up all their rights after one of these wars, so that the Browns could live, and then they are forced to work for the houses. So Matilda is out of this structure because she is a Brown, and she's in the country kind of hiding because she is galvanized, and you know that's not something usual. And one day one of the galvanized shows up on her doorstep bleeding, and he's saying they know about you and they're coming. And this kind of starts the story of her having to deal with that. Her brother has been missing for a couple of years. She doesn't know what happened to him. And so she's been kind of running this stuff for Brown, at least communications wise. So there's all this stuff about that. And then she's getting pulled into the world of the galvanized due to them finding out about her all of a sudden. So, and then there's other plot lines and things going on in here. I think this was fine. As I said, it was just, I was okay. It really took me that I got to 236 pages, which was 100 pages left to read. And I just lost steam. I was just like, things kept happening that I would be like, what? And, I didn't trust one of the characters after one instance. And then I was like, okay, well, I guess he's okay. And then later he was not okay. You know, and it was like, or, you know, it didn't work out. And then, I don't know. I just felt like, there was so much unsaid between the characters also. And then, yeah, I don't know. It didn't work for me. So I think it's a really great premise still. I do have a couple more of her books. Because again, I've read one series, another trilogy from her, a steampunk Western kind of one. I already read that one. So those are, and then I have 2 more series of hers that are more urban fantasy, that I want to try. So I will give her, her writing, it was not her writing. I just think plot wise and the decisions were just didn't click with what I wanted, I guess. It didn't click for me. But I'm glad I read it. I will keep the book because it's signed, so I'm going to keep it for at least a little while. I don't know. I hate to get rid of something that's been signed, but we'll see. But at least I finished it and they're done. And then the last one I read was One Day in the Life of Ivan Densovich. I can't remember how to say that. By Alexander Slovenison. I don't know. So this is a Russian modern classic. It was published, I think, in 1962, talking about the Gulag, and it's following one day in this guy's life. This translation was done by H.T. Willits, but I listened to an audiobook that was free on Audible Plus, so I can't remember who the audiobook narrator was. So sorry about that, because I forgot to check that one. I thought I had a sticky note on everything. Sometimes I mess up. So anyway, it was fine. I mean, it wasn't spectacular, but I think the book was really interesting. This is definitely a book I will keep, and I will probably reread it. I'll read it physically next time just to have another look at it. This was hard to read. It's like day in the life of him in the Gulag, and things that went to. The author again was sentenced to that after World War II, I believe, and I know I have the abridged version of the Gulag Archipelago, which I do want to try to get to at some point and read. I did start it like when I first got it, and then I never got back to it, but I'm glad I read this. I did read this for the Buzzword that Books and Lala does, Buzzwordathon for the year, because I wanted to try to do it this year. I wasn't going to do it super like strictly, but this one does have the word life in it, and it had been on my shelf and I had been wanting to get to it, and I found the audiobook again on Audible Plus. So I thought, well, I'll just listen to it. So, this was it was hard to read some parts of how hard it was for them and what they went through. And again, we're just seeing one day, and but he talks about other things that happened previously as well, but it was so hard to read this in some points of how brutal it was, and just it was maybe it's because it's winter here. I was already cold because they had doors open at work, and I was already kind of cold. So I was huddling with my little heater, and I felt I could just feel the cold, in this gulag. And again, I'm figuring it's in, I don't remember if they said this was Siberia, but it was cold area. It was super cold. I can't remember, it was just, but it was so interesting how the men worked together, the ones that knew to help each other out and do stuff, and the ones that didn't get along with them or who were the snitches and stuff. It was very much prison life, but it was just different because they were out in the elements and they were being made to build these buildings out there. It was a hard read for me, but I mean, I'm glad I read it, and I definitely want to read the nonfiction, the Gulag Archipelago, and I also want to read the book Gulag by Anne Applebaum that I have, the nonfiction. It definitely makes me want to, read more about this stuff, so hopefully maybe this year I'll get to some of those. But this was I'm really glad I read this. I really I'm not gonna say enjoy it, like I didn't enjoy it. I got stuff out of it, and it just hurt some of this to read, like just the things that they went through and had to go through. It was hard. Anyway. So, okay, so let's talk really quick about what I'm in the middle of reading. I am still dipping in and out of The Queen of Raiders by Sarah Kozloff, which is book 2 in the 9 Realms. So this one, I'm going to try to get through this before the end of the month. It's not calling to me, and it's not its fault. I think it's just not because I've read so many different kind of books this month. I don't know if you can tell, I'm all over the place. So because I read one already this month, I'm kind of like, this one's not calling to me, but I'm hoping to read a little bit every day this next week to try to get back into it, but we will see. But I do like it. It's a good fantasy about the first book, A Queen in Hiding, talks about a queen who is who has to deal with stuff within her palace as well as those without, and she has to make some hard decisions for her and her heir, her daughter. And there's a lot of different places we go to, and this world is really interesting, and how their gods are kind of connected, and it's interesting. Anyway, so I think I'm still devastated by I cried really hard at one point, like in here, like there's happened really not too far into the book. I'm still devastated about that. And so I think that's why I'm having trouble getting back to that book. I did pick up Virginia Woolf's A Writer's Diary. As I said, I was feeling that Square Haunting didn't give me enough. So I thought, I do have this. I bought this last year, and I've been wanting to read her journal entries. So I started this. I'm not going to read much every day. It's definitely going to be one that's probably going to carry into February. I'm reading probably about 6 to 10 pages a day. I just read that many entries, and then I think it's over, I think it was like 23 years of her life. It goes up until a couple of weeks before her death. So we're starting in 1918. So now I'm in the middle of 1919 right now, because there's not too many entries on some of the years. She just would be sporadic, and her husband put this together collection, I think in the 50s or the 60s, and 53. So he put together, but this is only all the stuff relating to her writing, other people's writings, like if she read their books or things to do, I think with their press. So it's mostly all the writing stuff. It's not all the personal. She didn't write like super personal stuff all the time. Most of it was related to what she was doing just every day. So but the writing stuff is all in this one. So far interesting. So I am enjoying that. I did pick up, because on Friday I finished One Day in the Life of Ivan Denovich, or whatever is that word. Anyway, I picked up To Green Angel Tower Part 2 because the audiobook was already loaded on my phone, so I just started listening to this. I am already over a third of the way through this because I listened to so much on Friday, and I did listen to it quite a bit yesterday morning as well. So this is the third book in the Memory, Sorrow, and Thorns series. Again, one of my favorite series of all time. I'm doing a reread because I'm going to go into The Last King of Ostenard, the second half of the series, after, in a couple months. And then I'm hoping to catch up into The Narrow Dark, which is book 3 in that series. And then book 4, The Navigator's Children, is supposed to come out later this year. So I'm hoping to finish my reread and then read into The Narrow Dark this summer. And then hopefully when Navigator's Children come out, I can go right into that to finish off that series. So I'm really excited about that. But I wanted to reread Memory, Sorrow, and Thorn last year, and I just did not get to the second half of the third book because the third book is broken up into 2. I have a hardback of the original To Green Angel Tower, but I always have I have the paperbacks too. I always buy the paperbacks too. It's just, those hardbacks are huge. Anyway, so we're in the second half. Everything's gearing up. All the things are happening. This is definitely right now, my poor Simon is having trouble. So again, in the first book, The Dragonbone Chair, we are following a lot of big cast of characters of around this continent of Ostenard. And when things are starting to change after the old king has passed, we're following Simon, who is a kitchen boy who gets kind of wrapped up in a lot of things beyond what he was prepared for. And we have like 2 princes who are vying for power, and then there's a lot of battles and war and things going on, as well as there are the Norns and the city, and they're all kind of like the elves kind of the world, but they have their own stuff going on between them and how they related to men. And it's a huge, fantastic world. I just love Tad Williams' writing. To me, is one of my favorites. And I love this series. So just my reread. I think this is my 3rd or 4th reread of this book. I've read Dragonbone Chair way more than any of them, but I'm pretty sure it's at least 4. It could be more than that. I've just lost track. I just, because I read a couple times before I started tracking. So I'm guessing this is my 4th or 5th time actually reading this this part of the series. So I want to finish this up this week. As I said, I have a third of it left. So I still have 14 hours on the audiobook, but I'm really enjoying it because this time I did it by audio, the reread, which I've read it physically every other time. Andrew Wincott is doing a great job. I really appreciate his narration. So, as I said, so hopefully I'll get this done this week because I have another audiobook on the standby that I really want to listen to. But this one, I definitely enjoying it. I love these characters, and I want to get to the end so that I can continue on the series. So the book that I am just adoring, that again, I don't know why it took me so long to pick it up. And I think it's because it started out with a POV, a first person, and then I knew it went to third person. And at the time when this book came out a couple of years ago, I hadn't read very many books that did that kind of combination. Now I've read quite a few books that have either done multiple people who do first person every chapter, or they do a mixture of first person and third. And now it's a little bit more normal to me. But I was so devastated this wasn't the same as the other books in the other part of the series that I put it off. And now I'm mad at myself for putting it off because I am loving this book. And that is Lake Silence by Anne Bishop. This is the first book in the world of the Other series, or book 6 in the Other series. But this is following different characters. But we get to hear little tidbits about the old characters, not the ones I want to hear yet so far. But I have gotten in the first 130 pages last night. You just get little hints from the old series. So this takes place the year after everything that took place in the in the first 5 books, starting with Written and Read. I love that series. That is like one of my favorite series of all time. And so this one was just hard for me to start it. When I first got it, I didn't quite understand. I guess I read the first chapter and I didn't know why it was first person, and I was thrown off because the other books were all third person. And then it switched to third person, and I'm like, wait, what's going on? So I think I picked it up one day when I first got it, and I just went, oh, I don't feel like this right now. And I've just never picked it up since. Well, now I finally picked it up because I put it on my list of series that I want to read this year for Serious About Series. And I'm so glad I finally picked this up. I am in love with this. This time I started it and I was right away back into this world. This is one of my favorite urban fantasy alternate history worlds. It's just, so fantastic. We're following Vicky, who has been given kind of a resort on this called Lake Silence, and she was given it in a divorce. She had a horrible divorce with her husband that has really emotionally wrecked her, and so she has put the money that she got from the divorce to upgrade the house because nobody has lived out there for many years, and somehow it is connected through with the others, or the Terra Ignata, or Terra, sorry, I have too many of those words. I can't remember. Kitty, anyway, the others, or the creature, the people the ones who are not quite human, they're like, they have creature kind of, I'm not explaining this right because the cat is distracting me. Sorry. I can't remember what they call them. Terra. Oh, I'm just, my brain. Anyway, the people that are the others, that are part human, part animal kind of thing. And so they're kind of like shifters, but it's a different kind of shifter. I don't know how to explain this. I'm not doing that very well. The cat is distracting me. Anyway, I've talked too long. Anyway, so we're following her, and then she finds one of her tenants who is part of the Crow Guard, which is awesome. So she's the one who can turn into a crow. She finds a dead body, and that kind of gets rolling, and how somebody wants her property, and again, she is there to protect. Her being there is to make a bridge between the others as well to humans, and so there isn't a misunderstanding like what happened in the last series. So this is so good. I'm not explaining that right. Once I get farther in, maybe my brain would calm down and the cat wouldn't distract me. But I really, really enjoying this. I'm reading it a lot slower than maybe some of the other books, because again, I've been reading quite a bit lately. But I love this so much. That's why I'm reading it slowly, because I'm trying to catch all the details, because there's so many little hints to the old series. And so I own this one, and I own the second one, Wild Country. So I could very well pick up the next book right after this one. We'll see how I feel. The third book is out in hardback, but the paperback version comes out in early February. So I will be going to Powell's, hopefully to buy that once it comes in. So that I'll have the first 3 books. I don't know. I'm pretty sure this is going to be, I don't think that's the last book in the series. I think it's going to be another 5-book series, but who knows? I couldn't find any information on that. But I'm so loving this. I'm really, really enjoying this. Anne Bishop has a way of writing these shifters that are so different and so the others are just awesome. And I just love that we get the humans who are we get a cop who is kind of thrown into this because he gets the call to go out to look at the dead body, and things that change in his life now that he's connected to this as well. And there are the vampires, and there's other I love this series. Anyway, I don't know. I'm just gushing now because anyway, I am reading this and super enjoying it. I'm hoping to finish it probably by tomorrow. But we'll see. As I said, I'm reading it pretty slow. So I might read this and then pick up the Wild Country that I have. Or I might wait till next week to read that one. And then again, the week after that, I'll get Crow Bones that comes out. So anyway, in paperback. So we'll see. Anyway, I'm just adoring this. And I'm mad at myself for waiting so long, but I'm also now kind of excited because I have 3 books I can binge within a couple of weeks. So I'm really excited to read that. And then I just want to mention real quick, there's other books that I will try to pick up if I don't pick up Wild Country. I do have a lot of other books that I want to get to physically, so who knows what I'll pick up. I have still a couple things I want to get to. But my audiobook for The Eighth Life just came in. Nino Harati, I don't know how you say that. I can't say that word. I'm sorry. Her last name is, I'll have to listen to it. The audiobook is done by Tavia Gilbert. So I listened to just like a couple pages just to see if I would get on with it, and I really enjoyed it. So this one I'm going to start after I finish to Green Angel Tower Part 2. Once I finish the book and it's done, then I will start this. So hopefully, again, I have 14 hours on that. And then this one is a 41-hour audiobook. But because I listen to stuff at 1.5 speed, it's like 27 hours. So we'll see. It's one of the big chunkers. It's one of those books that I have just had on my shelf, been meaning to read for a couple of years now and just haven't got to it. Right away, I liked it from the beginning. The first couple pages, as I said, I just listened to just to test it. So I think I'm going to enjoy this. So again, if it turns out the audiobook doesn't work for me, then I will switch to physically. But I am going to start this. This is on the horizon. Hopefully, as I said, in a couple days, once I finish the other audiobook, and then I will listen to that. So that is it. I know that's a really long video. Sorry about that, guys. I told you to be long. I have a lot to talk about. Really quick, I do want to say I did try a chapter tag. You will see that later this week. So these are the books that I tried for my first one for this year. I did historical fiction. Which ones do you think I liked? Which ones did I not like? Which ones am I keeping? Which is the one that I have to read in the next month? Because that is my new thing. I have to read the book in the next month. And then really quick, I'm just going to mark this. I know I did a classic. I did a couple, three non-fictions. What else did I do? I did a historical, I did a continue because I did the historical, which I'm going to count as a historical fiction. The Bride, what else? I did 2 DNFs. I don't think, I did another continue because I did Sweep of the Blade. Is that it? Oh, and then I did a start to a series. But that series I'm actually going to DNF because that was House Immortal. So anyway, so my board's looking pretty good. My reading was extremely high this week just due to work, especially at the end of the week. I mean, I couldn't do anything. I just sat there and listened to audiobooks while I waited for deliveries to come. It was kind of boring. Anyway, hopefully Monday, all the internet will be on and I will just be able to do all the paperwork that's been sitting there waiting for me. And we will be good. Anyway, this next week, as I said, I'm going on vacation on the weekend, so my weekly update might not get out on Sunday. Just a heads up, either I will do something different to release on Sunday afternoon when I get back, or I will film it Sunday and then release it Monday. It's just going to be a little off. Not normal. I mean, that normally is not what happens, but I'm going to be gone and I don't know if I'm going to have internet, and I don't think I'll, I just won't have time to do it until Sunday afternoon at the earliest. So we will see what happens. Beyond that, that's it. What are you guys reading? Are you guys having a great reading January? I think I'm done really well. I have actually not bought more books than I have read or DNF'd. I think I'm actually ahead on that. I'm kind of excited to see how the end of the month goes. I'm doing pretty good. We'll see if I can hold off. This whole not buying thing hurts me, but it's also good for me because I'm getting stuff off my TBR. But I'm not trying to add to it. Anyway, we're just doing what we can. So, that's it. I've talked too much. Anyway, I hope you guys are doing well and I will talk to you guys later. Bye.